Hello, guys and gals, and welcome. So today, Diablo put out a picture on their Twitter page and probably in a couple other places, and this is, of course, the picture. It is a family tree of the demons, the angels, and yeah, and further, obviously, the Nephilim. It's also missing a link as well, which we'll talk about that. But I guess that one is supposed to be a secret, so it's not written on the board. Let's start from the very beginning, which is, of course, Anu at the top. Now, Anu is both one being and two beings, and it's kind of hard to just simply say Anu. In fact, they should probably have like Anu the one, and then they should have like Anu the split, because there's two different Anus. Um, but to give you an idea who Anu is, he's basically the god of everything. In the Lama Sem's tome, it basically says that in the beginning there was but a single pearl, in which Anu resided. Anu was the sum of all things, good and evil, light and dark, physical and mystical, joy and sadness, all reflected across the crystalline facets of its form. And within its eternal dream state, Anu considered itself all of its myriad facets, seeking a state of total purity and perfection. Anu cast all evil from itself. All dissonance was gone for a time. These discordant parts formed into the being Tathamet, the first prime evil. Though separate beings, Anu and Tathamet were bound within the pearl. There they warred against each other in an unending clash of light and shadow for ages uncounted. Neither gaining the upper hand, at last, their energies spent after countless millennia of battle, they delivered their final blows. The energies, unleashed by their impossible fury, ignited an explosion of light and matter so vast and terrible that it birthed the very universe itself. So basically, what happened at this point was that, the body of Tathamet ended up becoming hell. That is essentially where hell comes from, is the dead body of Tathamet. The body of Anu, which was the other half of Anu that we originally had before he shed his evil side, became the basically heaven and the crystal arches, which is the high heavens. And then from both of them came specific aspects that were represented as actual, living creatures. On the demon side, there was the lesser evils, which is, of course, Andariel, the Maiden of Anguish, and Duriel, the Lord of Pain. The two of them were twins. Asmodon, the Lord of Sin, and Belial, the Lord of Lies. Then there were the prime evils, which was Diablo, the Lord of Terror, Mephisto, the Lord of Hatred, and Baal, the Lord of Destruction. Now, Mephisto is generally said to be the elder brother, although I don't really know if any of them can be considered elder, considering they were all basically born at the same time. But I guess maybe he's just the wisest of them. On the other side, we have the angels that were born from Anu's death. And we got Tyrael, the aspect of justice, Oriel, the archangel of hope, Imperius, the archangel of valor, Mathiel, the archangel of wisdom, which eventually became the archangel of death in Diablo 3, and Ethereal, the archangel of fate. Now, the interesting thing here is that there's a link missing between Oriel and Mephisto. So the mother of Lucian and Lilith is actually Oriel. A lot of people don't know that, but Oriel is... It is said, actually, if you take a look at Oriel's Wikipedia page, it will tell you that she is the mother of Lilith and Lucian, which basically means that Lilith and Lucian are Nephilim, because a Nephilim is a child born between an angel and a demon. So we already have some interesting things going on here that, in between the angels and the demons. So Oriel is literally the mother of Lilith. Mephisto is the father of Lilith. And then Lilith ends up getting together with Inarius. Now, Inarius is the brother of Tyrael, and just gets more and more complicated, doesn't it? And eventually, Lilith and Inarius steal the World Stone, make Sanctuary, And the World Stone is essentially a big giant piece of Anu that was left over. It's like the piece of creation. It's neither good nor evil. It's a neutral object, and so I don't think it really belonged to either side, neither the Tophamet side nor the Anu side, and that's why it ended up in the middle around. I believe its original location was in the Pandemonium Fortress, which was essentially the place between heaven and hell. Now, when they stole it, of course, they made sanctuary. They had a child. Their child's name was Lenarian, and Lenarian eventually changed his name to Rathma. Now, all of this is rather interesting because it basically goes to show you that these were all at one point the same being. So, all of the primevals and all of the lesser evils were at one point Tophamet. And they're actually. Oh, sorry. There actually is a line in the game where Tyrael says he's trying to recreate the dragon, right? So he's specifically talking about in Diablo 3, Diablo had a plan to basically incorporate all of the lesser evils and all of the prime evils and everything that he could possibly get into the stone and add them into himself, creating a more powerful version of himself. And what they were saying is that Diablo was trying to basically resurrect Tophamet. He was trying to recombine Tophamet into, the completed version of him, which incorporates all the aspects of evil. And in the same way, Anu could probably be recreated if Tyrael, Auriel, Imperius, Mathiel, and Ithariel were combined together, because that would eventually recreate Anu. Now, granted, it wouldn't be as powerful as Anu was, because, of course, the body of Anu ended up becoming heaven, and the body of Tophamet ended up becoming hell. So, despite the fact that they would have kind of like the same mind and maybe even a decent power level, they wouldn't be as large of a creature as Tophamet was, and they wouldn't be as large of a creature as Anu was on either side. Now, if you could somehow combine together all of the angels and all of the demons, you could potentially make the original Anu before he split, and that would be probably the most all-powerful being in existence, right? Now, this is also the reason why the Nephilim are so powerful. And it's important to remember this, is that Anu, when he was originally himself, before he split Tophamet off into the beast, he was the most all-powerful creature in all of creation. He housed within him good and evil, and he was immensely strong. And when he shed his evil side, he lost half of his power. And that was why Tophamet ended up being an equal power to Anu once Anu had shed half of himself. So when you think about it like that, think about it in that way about the children that come from the union between an angel and a demon. The children that come from that union are both good and evil, and so they have the power of both. And so in that way, of course, they're going to be more powerful than the angels alone or the demons alone, because they are a combination of both parts of the original Anu that made them so powerful. Now, Lilith is already a Nephilim, and she ends up marrying Anarius, and they make even more Nephilim, which is where Rathma comes in. And there are many, many more Nephilim than just simply Rathma. But Rathma is definitely one of the main children of that union. Now, there is a couple theories that I've had in my mind. One was that obviously somebody would be trying to recreate Tophamet. But Diablo already kind of tried to do that in Diablo 3, so I don't really know if that's going to be the plot of Diablo 4. However, it had occurred to me that maybe somebody would try to combine together all of the angels and all of the demons to force them together to become Anu again. And I don't know if that necessarily will work. However, there is some very interesting precedent to say that maybe this could be the case. If you take a look at our original puzzle, I know it's been a long time since I've brought up the the puzzle. But of course, we did have a puzzle which was found out back in September, and during the puzzle, there were quite a few interesting little tidbits of information. The most important of which was that for some reason, all 5 of the angels and all of the prime evils, the 3 prime evils, and the lesser evils were going to be trapped in some kingdom that is lost. Now, some people have been saying that this could potentially be Sanctuary, and there are some other options like Ure, but basically what we're seeing is that all the angels and all the demons are stuck in the same place, which makes me think that someone may potentially be either A, trying to get them out of the way so that they don't interfere, or B, maybe potentially utilizing them to form into the one. Interesting. Now, Raphma is an interesting one, and I believe he's already been spotted in some of the promotional material that they've put out. And Raphma is I believe, as far as I can tell, he is on his mother's side. He is more on Lilith's side than he is on Inarius's. Although it doesn't really... I'm not really quite sure you can really say he's on anyone's side so much as he doesn't want anyone to win, if that makes sense. It's also important to remember that Raphma was originally contacted by a dragon named Trangul. Trangul is a giant dragon that apparently defends Sanctuary. I'm not exactly 100% sure where he ended up coming from, but the priests of Raphma essentially have maintained contact with him. And it was actually Trangul that contacted him first, not the other way around. And we also have some indication that perhaps Trangul may be coming back. In the Art of Diablo book, Lilith is apparently holding Diablo's skull. I'm not exactly sure why that is. But at the bottom, there seems to be a serpent very similar to Trangul depicted in the Book of Cain that was labeled as Trangul. So it's interesting to note that Diablo 4 may have something to do with Trangul as well. Now, what exactly is going on in this crazy family history is, kind of insane. You've got Oriel sleeping with Mephisto that makes Lucian and Lilith. You've got Lilith creates Raphma, right? And with Anarius and convinces Anarius to steal the World Stone. Tyrael, who's the brother of Anarius, is kind of like let down by Anarius leaving, and also Mathiel goes crazy and kills everyone and turns into the Angel of Death, and Tyrael ends up saving the world and turns into the Aspect of Wisdom and takes that from Mathiel, and apparently Mathiel is dead. And supposedly he's going to be coming back because we did manage to get a pretty big leak on that, as far as was deliberately leaked, right? Because it was inside the puzzle that we solved in Diablo 2. They said that the 5 and the 7 essentially would be going specifically to a kingdom lost, right? So you can't have the 5 if one of them is dead. And from what we know of the angels, they can be reborn at the Crystal Arches. So there's a very good chance that Mathiel could be reborn without all his memories as a completely new angel. We don't know exactly what that angel is yet. And of course, there may be other creatures involved in this, maybe princes of hell or dukes of hell or any other numbers of things. I mean, for all we know, they're going to be pulling out demons from the woodwork for us to fight. I would assume that we will see some of the demons that we've seen before as well. And the story for Diablo 4 is definitely a very interesting one, and I have a feeling that this that they posted has something to do with the story. I mean, when you really think about it, the family tree here really goes to show you that they are all essentially still just one creation. Anu is the one. And everything came from Anu. Tophet came from Anu. The angels came from Anu. The demons came from Tophet. And as we go forward, Lilith apparently married her cousin and had a child with. It's a really effed up family tree, I'm not going to lie. Anyway, I thought you guys would have fun taking a look at this, maybe speculating about what potentially could be coming. The story of Diablo 4 obviously revolves around Lilith and Inarius, and they have made it very clear that it almost seems like we may have to choose between the two, right? And if you want to take a look, I do have videos going over both Inarius and Lilith in detail if you'd like to learn more about them specifically. And perhaps I should do one on Raft as well. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when it's me just talking about the family tree. And as always, keep watching.